destination unknown.
Welcome to this edition of Thought Leadership on Change from Bates 141. In this podcast, we will share with you some key outtakes from an event we produced on August the 18th in Singapore at the Screening Room. In partnership with MTV, we hosted a change panel to discuss how the music scene in Asia is changing and the implications for brands using music as a platform for sponsorship. A change panel is a round-table discussion of experts, in this case music opinion leaders and professionals, who debate how a topic is changing the way people think, live and shop, and its implications for brands. The panel was jointly moderated in front of a live audience by Frederic Covington, Regional Executive Strategic Planning Director of Bates 141, and Ian Stewart, Senior Vice President of MTV Networks Asia. The panelists comprised industry experts including Connie Lai, General Manager at Sony BMG Singapore, Awi Julianto, Jamba Asia Pac, Denise Marsh, CEO of the Singapore Indoor Stadium, alongside music consultants including Brian Tiong of B-Side, Paul Tan, Right Clicker, and Michelle Varma from Dark Horse Entertainment. To kick off the discussion, a short film produced by Bates 141 was played, featuring a series of interviews with music opinion leaders, professionals such as VJs, top local DJs and party organisers, as well as the most discerning listeners of music, urban and semi-urban Asian youths aged 16 to 27. To view the film, please download the video attachment that goes along with this podcast. To listen to the panel discussion following the film, please keep listening.
Some of us have watched this video a couple of times and still keep taking stuff out of it. There's a lot of interesting thoughts. They're thoughts shared by lots of other experts that have been spoken to. We'll just go around the group and just get some spontaneous thoughts as we move through them. So, Connie, was there anything that jumped out that you really thought was a major thing for the group?
There's this gap that none of us seem to be able to cross somehow, that huge chasm in that sense. And I think to a certain extent, what we're trying to do is bring to you new content that's really a little bit more adventurous, content that's a little bit more breakthrough, but we seem to have a problem trying to convince that mindset, that paradigm shift that it shouldn't be all about established artists. It should be about supporting local artists. It should be about supporting regional content, things like that, where we haven't seemed to be able to get that traction somehow.
One of the ironies of the industry is that it's probably never been in more flux and more problem in terms of which way to go for monetizing and revenue, and yet ironically the consumers never loved music more than ever, because this whole content explosion has allowed people to really thrive off wanting to discover music, and all that's absolutely true.
And that's where I think that there's a big gap with brands. And it's not about, catching on to an artist and capitalizing on that opportunity, but it's actually growing with that artist and giving people confidence, and they get an association with music, and then they automatically association with the brand that they're working with. And that messaging sometimes is missed, because I think that, like I think it was said in the video, and I was paying attention, where they said that you have these events and then you have these banners there, and you have it's not about plastering your name everywhere, but it's about getting the individual to leave that event and say, for example, Heineken, since you mentioned it, they gave me a great evening, and that's what you take home. There was great music, there was great DJ, and they'll never forget that Heineken brought that to you. So, and the other issue, since you give me a mic, I'll never stop. Is about distribution. And I think one of the issues that we keep talking about, and you mentioned that people get access to music, it's because they're getting the distribution being delivered to themselves. People are not willing to travel out there to find the music, because the music is coming to them. So how are we capitalizing on that opportunity to give them the music, to create a brand awareness of that particular brand, and to create loyalty?
What do you think, Paul? Because you've built your whole business on music discovery and
I think you got to do your research first before you do anything, and understand who you're talking to. It doesn't matter whether it's a big act or a small act, whether it's Madonna or an indie band. It's what your audience wants, and you have to look into that first before you make any kind of decisions.
I stand with Paul, obviously, because it's a relationship between three things. I think the music content, the community that attracts, and obviously brands who really want to target the community. Yeah. So music's the content that attracts the community around that. Yeah. Brands want the community. So the music becomes a kind of currency that you can trade. So it's if brands are smart in how they want to associate their brands with music, they should actually try and help these artists do what they want. Yeah, in terms of, from our research we've done with the Right Clicker platform, which we've been looking at for the past 2 years, music is self-aggregating. Yeah, so an indie artist would have his own community. A new rave electro artist will have his own community. Brands just need to look, as Paul said, into the research behind who's attracted to what. And then if that's your community of people that you want to target, then you should associate your brand with that kind of content. Helping the brands, helping the artists get their music out to this community. Brands have budget, yeah. They can create a marketing platforms that can connect more communities together. So a small indie band that attracts 5,000 people today might be able to attract 50,000 people with the right promotional support, events, online sites, and stuff like that. So that's the ecosystem that you really need to look at when you're looking at this. It's all organic. It's all there already.
There's just such a breathtaking lack of imagination in the way in which brands, record labels, promoters engage with the artists. For a start, I think that we're talking about venues, and we're talking about venues being plastered with large logos, and yes, indeed they are, and they have the most crass brand devices like huge red hands that people are expected to wave and then end up getting used as offensive weapons as they're frisbeed towards the poor artists on the stage, or the roadies or whatever. And also the other thing is not just finding new ways and more innovative and indeed more subtle, although I'm not quite sure whether a brand would feel it worthwhile spending on a concert just have their colour included in the background. I thought that was a bit overly optimistic and simplistic of one of the speakers. The other thing is as well, if you look at the distribution of the artist's material, you're talking about distribution, and live music is one thing which will never be replaced by any other form of distribution. The people buy a ticket to a show because they want that unique experience of being there on that night and hearing that particular performance of some of their favourite artists' music. And whether it's at a huge venue like ours or a pub or a club or a university hall, it doesn't matter where it is. They're going there because they want that unique interface with their favourite artists and musicians. So why is it that record labels and artist management and promoters are not getting the fact that on the back of that fantastic experience, which hopefully it will be, and that's why they're paying for the ticket, they can also promote and distribute more product of different varieties, whether it's downloads like they did with Linkin Park when they came to our venue, where they recorded the entire concert, and then those that bought a ticket got a key code to open up for a very tiny amount more, to open up a free download of the entire concert. So what you might as well do is find a way to get much better quality content from the event and distribute it properly in a way that you can monetize. Even the things like the Sunday Times exercise with Prince. There it is. He gave the thing away free with the Sunday Times, but what did that brand get out of it? They got, 10 times the distribution?
Yep.
They had to go into reprints, the first time in history that Sunday Times has ever run out of copies. And that was all because there was one free CD given away with it.
Which opens up the whole ownership thing, because it's bands like Linkin Park that are self-managed, or Avril Lavigne that are self-managed, or Prince that's self-managed, where the manager and the artist own the rights and can clear them all the way through, which is fantastic. But maybe, Connie, you might have some thoughts on how the other side of things work. No, because the world's opening up to wanting to have copyright and content clearances.
When we bring something to the brands, we want them to have an integrated experience. It's not about taking the money. It's not about that. It's making sure that this artist is bringing something through, delivering a value, a personality, or the essence of your brand to the audience. It's not about slapping a big logo and they'll remember it. It's about this artist really represents what my brand is all about. And that's what we're trying to deliver. And there are times when it is a little bit out of our control. But as much as we like to, we try our best.